Matt, you ready?
Yep, ready to go.
I'd like to call the April 4th, 2022 meeting, the city council in regular session for the city of Lake City. And if everyone would stand for the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for your guidance, and hopefully our decisions are pleasing in your eyes and in the best interest of our community. Thank you for looking after our community and our nation. We ask that you look after our first responders and our troops and our citizens. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Oxby, call the roll.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Jefferson?
Here.
Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Dial?
Here.
Mr. Coberline?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting since 1968. The city code has prohibited any person from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There's only one approved manner of addressing the city council, and that's to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. I want to ask everybody to be civil, be respectful of each other, and keep the comments to the 3-minute limit. We have a proclamation, and Mr. Bowden, I believe, wanted to speak to that.
Mr. Mayor, when I saw that proclamation, I said I wanted to speak to it and commend you and the city for recognizing this particular profession. Often, I notice in government that we talk about the first responders, the police, the sheriff, the firefighters, and they deserve all of that. Believe me, I understand. I live on Baskin-Nars, and when that fire truck come by, I know that they're going to the fire, not from the fire. So they deserve everything they get. But I also had an experience where I had to call when my house caught on fire a few years ago, attic fire, electrical fire. And that interaction with that person on that initial call was what I remember the most. It was professional, it was to the point. I mean, it was just wonderful. So I just wanted to commend you for recognizing that profession, because without them, it can be a lot of problems. I mean, if they stumble or mix up or wrong address or get nervous, then the whole system breaks down. So I think it's important that we recognize that. It's kind of like you talk about City Hall, but you never talk about the public works people who are out there digging the ditches, you know, doing the COVID. Oh man, you know, this going on. But if there was a gas line bust, those same guys had to get up in the middle of the night and go out there and fix their hole, you know. If there was a water line, they had to go, but so everybody plays a role. As Jim Carter said, there's dignity in all work, and certainly there's dignity in being a telecommunication expert. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I'd like to read the proclamation. It's called National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, April 10th through the 16th, 2022. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require law enforcement, fire, or emergency medical services. Whereas the public safety telecommunicators are the first contact our residents have with emergency services. Whereas these unseen first responders provide an essential service to the community and to police and emergency personnel with compassion, understanding, and professionalism. And whereas public safety agencies nationwide celebrate how important public safety telecommunicators are in providing support to our law enforcement, fire services, emergency medical services, other governmental field personnel. Whereas in 1991, Congress proclaimed the second week of April as nationally noted week of recognition dedicated to the men and women who serve as public safety telecommunicators. Whereas Lake City wishes to recognize our public safety telecommunicators for their commitment to performing their duties with integrity, accountability, and respect at the highest level of customer service. Now, therefore, I, Stephen M. Witt, Mayor of the City of Lake City, do hereby proclaim April 10th through 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Lake City, and do hereby recognize the Lake City Public Safety Telecommunicators for their outstanding service and commitment to the citizens of Lake City and Columbia County. If the law enforcement, everybody would come forward. Let's go through people, okay? Thank y'all for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Doctor. Okay, we have minutes from the March 21st, 2022 regular session. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Motion second to approve the minutes is published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the agenda. Item 10 involves the pier at Lake Montgomery, and I've had a couple of calls, particularly mainly from the Game Commission that wanted to do a little more work on it, kind of get a better plan to resolve some of the issues that the neighbors and citizens have. So I'm gonna ask that that be tabled till the next meeting in a couple of weeks.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of the agenda, deleting items 10, 13, and 14.
Second.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
13 and 14.
Mr. Mayor, hold. I don't know about 13 and 14. What's the issue with 13 and 14?
Okay, well, yeah, I see that. You made the motion and
Yeah, okay, so until we get an interim or a full city manager, there's no need to discuss those.
okay, is there a second?
Mayor, hold on.
Second.
Mayor, you told me.
Mr. Mayor, point of order in the meeting.
Hold on.
There's a
You
motion
ain't calling
and a
point.
second on the floor.
Mr. Mayor, I got the
Mr. Mayor.
I'm at the podium.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm at the podium, Mayor.
there's a motion and a second.
It doesn't matter.
Second, we'll deal, you can discuss it.
Mayor, hold. This
Mr.
one
Mayor,
man
point
running
of
this show
order.
stuff, Mayor, this got to come to an
Okay,
end.
we're gonna stop.
Yeah, let's start the whole meeting then. We shut the whole meeting down.
No,
Yeah. Mayor, we had an agreement. We had a deal.
I said I'd put it on there. He's made a motion. It's been seconded. That's the rules. I can't change those rules.
You told me we were gonna discuss this issue. You didn't discuss the
I did
issue.
say that.
You did not discuss the issue about every other thing that we were doing in this community. You didn't discuss the issue about hiring a police chief. You didn't discuss the issue. We didn't wait for no new manager for none of this.
Okay, I'm telling you, I put it on the agenda. He's made a motion. It's been seconded. We're gonna vote on it.
Vote on it. I'm standing here and vote on it. I'm gonna still discuss it. Because when I get up, I'm turning the paper. We're gonna still discuss it, man. I can promise you we're gonna discuss it.
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yeah.
Mr. Hill?
Before we continue, so this issue is not dead, correct?
That's correct.
Just being removed from the agenda.
Okay. So yes.
Mayor Witt?
No. Okay, we're at public comments.
So I'm here, Mayor. We're gonna talk about where we at. We voted on giving the money and an application process for affordable housing. For the senior program. I wanna know where we're at in that stage. We have interim city managers that are capable of making all type of big decisions. Now we need a city manager. I'm lost as to why we can't do it with what we currently have in place. At least the process get going.
I agree.
Why we can't give instructions to this current interim, and when the next current interim comes in, it just carry over. I think seniors shouldn't have to be put on hold. The fire chief didn't get put on hold, the police chief didn't get put on hold, but when programs affect a particular community, it's always to put it on hold.
I agree, we need to move on.
So why are we tabling stuff that's so important to a particular community? These are seniors. I mean, they're the most vulnerable people and part of our community besides children. And we already agreed to give up the money. I mean, what's the hurt of duplicating the process? And Todd was the main one who talked about, we use the same format and application that the county used. We discussed this thing in great detail. This is not a rocket science project. It's just only cutting and pasting what the county has already used as an application.
I agree, the projects need to move on, but that was the motion, the second, and the vote. I can't
I'm
change
just
that.
discussing. I got 3 minutes. I think I can use my 3 minutes if I see fit. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And while we're at it, what are we gonna do about making sure that we file a restraining order against Mr. Hope? I mean, y'all got so much stuff that you want to point an order me. You know, Todd, you want to point an order me, but what are we doing about this guy that's dangerous coming up to the council meeting with a gun? Where's that process of getting your legal attorney involved and getting an injunction against him?
I'll discuss that with Mr. Copeland in private, not right now.
Well, me personally, I don't feel too safe with this guy. Everybody in this room know how he feel about people of my color. So I don't feel safe with him sitting out there.
Well, it's just it's just another instance of white privilege where, you know, I'm at the podium, somebody disagree with me being at the podium, it's point of order. A person bring a gun in, it's like it's all good. No consequences. Well, it's gonna be a long night, man. Promise you that. If you think you're gonna sit here and let Todd and different ones turn down seniors who are in need of home repair and push it down the road, that ain't fair, man. And you supposed to stand up to stuff like this as a leader. You're the chairman.
I had a vote.
I mean, I want 3 minutes on every issue and item that's on the agenda.
That's what. All right, Mr. Jernigan.
I'm with Ms. Jernigan. State your name for everything.
Yes, my name is Dana Jernigan.
That's exactly what you gotta say.
But the issue I have today is, we have road issue problems on Sims Street and Patterson. My car was damaged on Sims Street, and I called the city, and they told me they was gonna come out, look at what the incident would happen. They came out the next day, the first part of March. They told me that the inspector was gonna call me. She never called. I never heard anyone. I didn't get a response until March 15th when I tried to call her. And then the city, they're gonna tell me they're not gonna fix but half of my car. They only gonna pay for half of it. I'm a single parent. It wasn't my fault that my car was damaged due to road damages. I called and reported it. They told me just because I had done lived there over 2 years and it wasn't reported, but as I reported the incident, nobody still has not come out to fix the same problem. I just don't feel like I should have to pay for the damage that was done to my vehicle.
How much were the damages?
I haven't got it inspected because she told me that the was gonna come out and look at it first. The city had insurance people gonna come out and look at it.
So the insurance people?
For the city, I guess that the city insurance people gotta come out and look at it.
I'd ask Mr. Down staff to look into it and see what their position is, why they think it's only half, and get back with Ms. Jernigan.
Yeah, they've already rendered a decision as to why it was half. They're only the determination why it was half. They said that since she's lived there for 2 years, that was their response. Since she lived there for 2 years, And I think you can talk to, I talked to Steve, and I talked to Brian about this, and that was their response, because she lived there for 2 years. They only feel they should pay half. Sim Street has always been a major issue in the Black community. But for people that live in the Black community, they know that Sim Street, it dips down, it would tear your car up coming off. That's the road that the ambulance use when they come off of Patterson Street. It's always had that major dip there. It's always been a problem. And if the insurance company is willing to pay half, and then I think the city should foot the other half of the bill some type of way. I don't think that her as a single mom, no fault of her own, she paid taxes and expect for a road to be decent for a car not to get damaged, for her to have to pay half, Mayor.
Okay, well, we'll look into it and find out what's going on.
In the event that she has, in the event that the insurance company is only gonna pay half, what's her recourse for the city to pay the other half?
We can look into it and see what the city wants to do, and if not, she's got the right to come after us. But I don't know anything about it, but I will get with them and find out about what the insurance company said and what's going on.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Bowden?
Mr. Mayor, as you can see, I want to speak to a couple of issues, but during the public comment session, I had no idea that item 14 was going to be removed. I must say I'm a little bit concerned as to the rationale for its removal. If we're going to remove an item contingent upon getting a new city manager, which you've been doing searching for now for 9 months, you know, who's to say how long it's going to take for this process to go forward? I don't think that there's an application process. You know, I'm not sure. I understand Councilman Sampson's rationale. He can explain it. He's of age for himself. I don't understand why this particular issue should be put on hold pending a city manager. There's got to be someone working for the city who can be tasked with taking applications, going through the process, and see how many people we got in our community that's interested. Because it just don't. If we to the point now that we don't have a single person within the city who can process applications for this particular program, then we got a real problem. So, as I didn't know that was my issue, but I don't see the rationale for that. The other thing, man, it was April the 4th of 1968 when we left the world going to Vietnam. And I earned a combat infantry badge while I was in the Army and an air assault medal. The night, I'm not a fearful person. I don't scare real easy. But I must tell you that I'm actually nervous that Mr. Hogan is to my right back there. I appreciate the police officer sitting close to him. But it's nerve-wracking for me, for a person to have admitted to bringing a firearm into the meeting hall. And he did it on the night when there was a tremendous amount of people of color up there addressing issues. And most of the time when you get up to the microphone, he either opposed what I understand, what Mr. Warren is saying, or what Ms. George is saying. And so I just want to go on the record that I am nervous about it, and I feel threatened with his presence being here in the building. I really, you can put him out, search him, that, you know, that's up to the city, but I want the record to reflect that I feel threatened with his presence. The other thing, Mayor, I want to mention, I don't usually talk about the Lake Street Reporter, but they did an editorial on Saturday, Sunday, and it says, why not hire a local manager? And I can tell you why not. Number one, nobody locally applied for it. And so that's the first thing. And secondly, if you start taking their rationale that you look for somebody in the community that's retired in the public sector, in the private sector, and then get them to come on board for a year, for 2 years. Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's a professional in this community that's retired in the public sector or the private sector that look like me. So what that amounts, what their recommendation is, as far as I'm concerned, is to go to ourselves. You know, because there is no way you can necessarily find someone locally without doing a serious application process. And I don't think there's a person of color in this community that would apply. So I hope that's just the editorial that they wrote for their own benefit, because it's our opinion. And I hope you understand that our opinion is two people. It's the editor and it's the publisher. And the publisher, the editor don't even live in Lake City, so their opinion matters. They got an opinion like I got one. But I hope that the city council don't consider their recommendation or take it serious, and I'll speak to my other issues later.
Okay. All right, we'll move into, new consent agenda, old business. We have opened a public hearing on City Council Ordinance 2022-2214 on final reading. Mr. Caroline, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City Council of City Lake City, Florida, amending the city code relating to the cleaning of lots, providing for amendments to Division 5 titled Lot Cleaning Code of Article 7 of Chapter 22 of the City Code, providing for compatibility with the Florida statutes, providing for the repeal of conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date, period.
Okay. Anybody want to speak for or against this ordinance?
Man, I'm speaking on every issue. We're gonna be a while. In my phone, man, as I was thinking about this article, I came across a passage, and as we were talking, it's called a call to repentance. It says, "The Lord shall also to me in the days of Joshua the king, have you seen that backsliding Israel has done? She has gone upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, return to me. But she did not return. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it. Then I saw that for all the causes for which the backsliding Israel had committed adultery, had put her away, and given her a certificate of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah did not fear, but went and played the harlot also. So it came to pass through her casual harlotry that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and trees. And yet, for all this, her treacherous sister Judah has not turned to me with her whole heart, but in pretense, says the Lord. The Lord said to me, backsliding Israel has shown herself more righteous than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return, backsliding Israel, says the Lord. I will not cause my anger to fall on you, for I am merciful, says the Lord. I will not remain angry forever. Only acknowledge your iniquity, that you have transgressed against God, your Lord, and have scattered your charms to aliens, deities under every green tree, and you have not obeyed my voice, says the Lord. Return, O backsliding children, says the Lord, for I am married to you. I will take you, one from a city and two from a family. I will bring you to Zion. I will give you shepherds according to my heart. I will feed you with knowledge and understanding. Man, I wish the Lord was doing this to you guys right about now. Then it shall come to pass, when you are multiplied and increased in the land of those days, says the Lord, that they will say no more, the ark of the covenant of the Lord, it shall not come to mind, nor shall they remember it, nor shall they visit it, nor shall it be made anymore. At that time Jerusalem said, call the throne of the Lord, and all the nations shall be gathered to it, to the name of the Lord, to Jerusalem.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak to this ordinance? We'll move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2214 on final reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move for adoption of ordinance 2022-2214, final reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion by council? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next, we're to open a public hearing on City Council Ordinance 2022-2218 on final reading. Mr. Caroline, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending the future land use plan map of the City of Lake City Comprehensive Plan as amended, relating to an amendment of 50 or less acres of land pursuant to an application CPA 22-02 by the property owner of said acreage under the amendment procedures established in sections 163.3161 through 163.3248 Florida statutes as amended, providing for changing the future land use classification from county residential low density to city commercial of certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Lake City, Florida.
Anybody wish to speak to this ordinance?
Providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Anybody wish to speak to this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious if someone can tell me exactly where is this located? Anybody know?
So I looked at it over the weekend.
But you're going from residence to city commercial. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason for it. I'm just curious where it's located.
Mr. Mayor,
I think it's about,
it's on 47 South.
okay.
Just directly after Bascom Norris, there's a corner there. I forget the name of the road that shoots over. It's the one if you go straight on Bascom Norris, it cuts all the way through. It's on that corner.
Oh, okay.
What's the name? You cut it over, but I don't know. Marvin Burnett, that's it.
Oh,
So it's
that
at the corner of 47 and Marvin Burnett.
goes in front of that, behavior mental health place? That's the,
Well, that's on the other intersection. It's the,
okay,
Right past
Yeah.
y'all down there to your right.
that's, I'm just curious.
Yeah, corner, basically the corner of, Aurora.
All right, anybody wish to speak?
Council, there's a, song by Clouds, it's called Equal. It starts, I say, you all hung us and we forgave you. You all whooped us till we praised you. How hundreds of years later, we're still a slave to you. I say to you, treat us the same way you treated Dylan Roof. And you all ain't supposed to be scared of us, we're supposed to be scared of you. Dylan killed half the church and y'all took him to Burger King. Killed George Floyd about $20, knee on his neck and spleen. You don't want to look like one of them. They'll try to steal your dream. Protect and serve is the motto. I guess they don't know what it means. I'm trying to live to that day. I can see an all-black jury. 2020 and I still ain't seen an all-black jury. Just got a text from my mom, said, baby, I hope you're safe. I text her back and said, I hope they don't kill me about my race. Equal. I just want to be treated equal. You bleed red, I bleed red, we're all people. Equal. We just wanted to be treated equal. Cap took a knee and they fired him all about his people. You got a gun and I don't. I'm the one who's supposed to be scared. The one who's chasing their dreams ain't the one who's supposed to be dead. And why the judge and the prosecutors ain't spoken out yet? The systematic racism responsible for half these bids. If it don't affect the majority, it ain't a problem for real. That's opioids a problem. Don't you know what an opioid is? Now how the system gonna treat you, it all depends on where you live. The only deem it a problem depending on how the majority feel. He killed half the church and they say he's mentally disturbed. Some people did a little looting. White House called him a thug. With his Fortune 500 corporations who steal from us all, Corona killing them inmates, ain't nobody said a word. He don't sympathize with a race. He care more about the flag. It's black folk who fought and served too, little homie, that's facts. And once you show us who you is, it ain't no walking it back. Mr. Sampson. You stood in the paint
Mr. Mayor,
for
point
his
of order.
pain,
He's mentioned him.
and I love you for that.
That's not correct.
In this
Mr. Mayor.
word,
Point of order,
in this
Mr. Mayor.
world,
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. My name was
It's not a
mentioned.
point of order. and
Yeah, so,
be addressed.
yeah, so I don't know why you're mentioning my name in the middle of this poem. I mean, I think, Mr. Mayor, is there not some rule that says that we can hold public comments to the items on the agenda? Would that be a question for the attorney?
Yes.
Mayor, it's up to the discretion of the chairperson whether or not they want to allow items as to each item on the agenda as opposed to the top of the meeting.
and Mayor, you've already agreed.
Which to address council.
Mayor, you've already agreed to let me speak to every item. You said yes.
Tonight we will, but we may address it.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, at the end of that, I would like the full ordinance read in full before there's a motion and a vote
Okay,
on every item.
all right.
Let's do it.
That's fine, I got all.
I got plenty of time, as well as you know. I got more. How much time you got, Todd?
All right, let's move on.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, you mentioned me again.
He mentioned me. He was talking to me, Mayor.
Yeah, everybody behave.
Yeah, well, tell your-
No, we're gonna have several meetings.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Mayor, you keep
Mr.
listening.
Mayor, point of order,
I'm
time's
talking to you, Mayor.
expired.
Okay,
Well, put my time back on the clock, Mayor, because he was asking questions to the attorney, and you were talking, and plus he was talking to me.
you got 1 minute.
You're not positive. Mr. Mayor, the clerk paused his time while we were discussing.
Okay, it was.
So why are you at another minute?
Oh, we got
Well,
another
we're
minute.
not-
Do we need to have a meeting tonight? I mean, I'm
We're
not,
gonna have a workshop on decor.
I would like to see that because decor comes from the chair, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to see you have decor. Well, we have nails, not decor. This is not decor.
No, it isn't.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna tell you what's not professional. When you got one person making all the decisions for the whole council, even to the point it's caused a bad relationship with the county. So if we're gonna all be citizens, we need to all individually
Well,
be
we're gonna
council.
all be respectful.
And we'll all be respectful. What have I said is
New
disrespectful?
rules,
What have I
because
said is
these ain't working.
disrespectful? Tell me one thing I've said is disrespectful, Mayor. Exactly.
All right, we're gonna move on to adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2218.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-2218 on its final reading.
Second.
Been a motion and a second, any discussion by council? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Sampson,
Yes.
Mayor Witt.
Yes. Next, City Council Ordinance 2022-2219. Mr. Covenant, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Lake City Land Development Regulations as amended, relating to the rezoning of less than 10 contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z 22-01 by the property owner of said acreage.
Excuse me, Mr. Attorney, is there a reason why we have a citizen at the podium during the reading of the ordinance? Shouldn't they wait for you to call on per Robert's rules?
Yes. If you have a seat, please.
Thank you.
All right,
Providing for rezoning from county residential, single-family to city commercial intensive of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Lake City, Florida. Providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date, period.
okay. Anybody want to speak to this ordinance?
This truck, my son was born in, I reckon it's a few months of jail for DUI.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't sign up for a concert. That's a point of order. Are we allowing recorded items?
Are we doing what?
Are we allowing recorded items?
Are we recording it?
No, he's playing music.
You know, this is my 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor, as to how I want.
Mr. Mayor, I just can't ask you, as leader of this meeting, have the ability to change that at any point.
Okay, we need
So it's up to
to,
you to change that, Mr. Mayor.
well, we're gonna have a workshop and we are gonna change.
Well, I think that's a good idea, and I think in the meantime, I'll call on you to keep the time to the time now.
Mr. Mayor,
There might be other people who want to talk.
well, Mr. Mayor, I signed up for all these items. You got to speak to them. When my 3 minutes is up, they won't stop nobody from speaking to these items.
Okay, but from now on, there will only be public comments and there won't be speaking to each item because it's being abused.
No, what's being abused
Yes, it is, yes, it is. It's
You
being,
know why it's
I'm
being abused, Mr. Mayor? Because items got taken off that affect people in a community.
still, you're abusing what
I'm
we.
not abusing.
Yes, you are.
Okay, well, you can call it what you want. Well, we're gonna have a long night tonight. Mr. Sampson, he'll abuse it. He said he wanna call for you to read the whole thing, but you ain't said nothing to him.
We ain't read the whole thing yet.
Well, so this council treat, the community different and apologize for how they treat me?
No.
Then, well, we'll just ride out today, Mr. Mayor. How much money I got left? So can I get my time back that you've taken?
No, we need to move on. We need to talk to the, when I say public comments, it's public comments on this ordinance. It's
Mayor.
not public comments
Mayor,
about
can I ask
anything
you,
in general.
Mayor, can we recess for a minute?
Being very lenient with you.
Being lenient with who?
You.
I'm being lenient with you too, Mayor. Mayor, can we recess for a second? Me and you need to talk. Can we recess for a second?
No. We need to move on and run this meeting.
Mayor, I think if we recess, me and you can get on the same page and we can
No,
come back and have
I'm
a
not.
productive meeting.
No. We're gonna move on.
But you're not willing to have a conversation?
No, not right now.
Okay, well. I got 3 minutes to every issue, Mayor.
Go ahead. That's gonna be tonight. But we will change the rules if I have anything to say about it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to adoption, city council ordinance 2022-2219.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2219 on the final reading.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion by council? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Next, we're to open a public hearing on city council resolution or ordinance 2022-2220 on final reading. Mr. Carolina, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the city of Lake City, Florida, relating to unlawful activity within public roads and rights of way, amending chapter 98 of the City of Lake City Code to increase the fines associated with activities that interfere with public safety and the primary purpose of public roads and rights of way, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date, period.
All right, public comments on this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I got a question, concerning this ordinance, and maybe the city attorney can explain it. You're amending chapter 98 and increasing the fines, and what's the amount of the increase? That's the question, I guess.
What?
Mayor, the amount of the increase is increased from $25 to $100 on a first violation. On a second violation, the increase is from $50 to $175.
And if I may ask, Mr. Mayor, what precipitated this change? And I understand that it says, a social activity that interfere with public safety and the primary purpose of public roads and right-of-way provided. Is there some concern that there been people doing something in public right-of-way that prohibits public safety?
I think the fines have just been outdated and the cost to even administratively handle them is so outdated is what brought.
So the motivation is about the increase in fines, not by any activity that's.
No. Not that I know of.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I'd make a comment there. So, yeah, there's some activity that needs to be moved too. So this ordinance, these fines will allow us to use the magistrate to enforce the ordinance, which is where we're having problems with people at the busy intersections and the busy arterial streets, which are laid out in the ordinance, where they're coming into the street. Normally it's panhandling, that sort of item going on. But for safety purposes, this is to move them off a certain distance off of the street. But before, the fine wasn't enough to even cover the magistrate hearing, so. But we need to start enforcing that because, I don't know, but there's been a big pickup. If you go down the 90 corridor and the main corridor with people getting right there on the street side, and it's pretty dangerous.
Well, I guess I was concerned, Mr. Sampson, with this because I do know in my neighborhood, young people, it's something they do. They always mean anything. They stop, they talk to each other in the middle of the street, and sometimes it can be annoying. I mean, it's offended me sometimes, but I sit there and wait. But I didn't want this to become a tool to start impacting them and causing them some issues, $100 here, $100 there, just because they wouldn't move quick enough. But I understand the motivation. I just want to be sure that wasn't for law enforcement.
Mr. Mayor, and it is limited to those streets. So if you look in it, it tells you right there, the arterial roads on the page 3 of 5 of the ordinance 98.71. It lays it out to 90 to Bea, 41, also known as State Road 25 in Maine, south of 100, US 441, also known as 25A in Marion, and then south of 100, and then also Bea Drive. So it's limited to those areas.
Good enough.
Mr. Lelker?
Thank you, Your Honor. Stu Wilker, Columbia County Observer. Is this to keep panhandlers off the road? Is that the purpose of this? Is there anybody else that?
Coming out to the road, yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody else. This is just singling out panhandlers who can't afford to pay the fines anyway? So they can get in front of the special magistrate and you're gonna raise a fine from $25 that somebody has no money and can't pay, and maybe homeless, to $100? That somebody has no money and can't pay? Is that the purpose of this? You guys are voting on it, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I think it's,
I think it's kind of to deter them from doing that.
Sir?
I think it's kind of to deter them from panhandling.
I don't know if that's gonna make a difference. I mean, I see them at 90 on the interstate now.
We got
That's
the price of-
included.
We got, I mean.
Sir? Thank
We
you.
got to do something because there's getting to be exacerbation of the problem. And just recently, I noticed they were even in the median on Main, which fortunately I know they ran them out of there, but it's getting pretty dangerous, and they're getting more and more belligerent with how they're approaching vehicles.
No, I see that.
And so we've got to do what we can to protect them, one, from themselves from getting run over. And so hopefully the idea is to move them off the intersection. I think it says 200 yards or 200 feet.
No, I get that. I understand what the issues are, but this is, what you said tonight, what I understand, and you had the city attorney, this is strictly directed at panhandlers so they're safe, because most folks, I don't stand in the middle of the medians. I don't think the sergeant stands in the middle of the medians usually unless he's directing traffic. So this is just directed at those people. Whether or not there's a constitutional issue there, you would have to ask Mr. Koberline. And I do have another question that maybe you could run by Mr. Koberline. I understand that there's certain members of the audience here that are not particularly happy with the way meetings are run. But when it comes to discussing these items, and I think we need a decision from the attorney who sits there and he doesn't answer anything unless somebody asks him a question. Well, sometimes he does. So I think the question needs to be asked on these 3 minutes, because the rules shouldn't be changed because one person has a disagreement with the city council. The question needs to be asked, when you get your 3 minutes to address an item on the agenda, is that 3 minutes to address the item on the agenda, which clearly it seems to me that it is, or is it to come up here, and I hate to use the word filibuster, and do anything that you want? And I think that needs to be straightened out this evening, because the issue is now. The issue is not to have a private meeting with the mayor during the meeting, or the city clerk, or Mr. Sampson, or Mr. Jefferson, or Mr. Hill, but you have a city attorney here now who says that he's an expert in municipal law. Maybe you could ask him, and I would ask that you do that, so this be straightened out now, so people don't get embarrassed and the meeting doesn't go on for the next 10 hours. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna talk to item 6. I guess my question would be, Mel, how did we collect the data as to which roads? One, I wanna understand how we came to the conclusion of those are the roads. and then we get all the roads that we have those issues on. Two, I think my issue is where's the city at in saying, hey, we got an issue with homelessness, we got an issue with people in need, and have the city worked on getting with any coalitions and make sure that those folks are providing some type of services? Where's the city on that? Are y'all in conjunction with anybody? Are we just, and who's gonna go out? I mean, what service are we gonna be using? The police department is gonna be a time of their time interacting with these folks. There's a lot of activity in other places. I'm just trying to understand the big picture. One, how we identify these areas. Two, what are we doing as a city to bring resources to those individuals? Maybe mental health they may be dealing with. There's a host of other issues they may be dealing with. How we're addressing that instead of just bringing the hammer down on them about that particular issue. And then who are gonna be going out to deal with those individuals when it relates to services, going out, telling them to get off the road, finding them, or whatever the case may be.
Well, we've used United Way and, the police department, I know, refers people to a lot of different programs. We do, when we have an opportunity, and,
What specifically programs do you know of, Mayor? You're the mayor. What programs do you know of? If I stood a homeless person in front of you right now, what programs do we have in place as a city that we
Christian
would?
Service Center, Meridian, United Way,
And they would,
a lot of the social, organizations, a lot of the churches,
and how would we?
veterans, committees, veterans representatives. There's a lot of programs.
How do we communicate that to the panhandlers? What form of?
That's something we just gotta do it the best we can. And we work with, I've worked over the years with the Homeless Coalition.
I have too. I know. I'm trying to understand what program do we use when an officer go up? You may have a genuine person that's dealing with issues, right? We don't want to just find people for no reason.
Right.
What service are we offering? Is there going to be something in hand that the officer is going to have, referring them to services, where to go if you in, like, I'm just trying to understand what we're going to do. If we understand there's a problem, I don't think you finding people resolve the issue. We need to try to figure out there's a deeper issue and what can we do as a community in a collaborative effort to deal with the issue. I don't think they're just standing up there because they just want to cause a problem. And it may be a few, but I think there's a deeper issue going on with some of those folks.
I agree.
And how did we reach the conclusion as those areas? I mean, was that intel from the police department? Was that intel from the community? Was that I mean, how did we get to those
I think
particular
it's a
roads?
combination of a lot of things.
Such as?
The police department, just knowledge, the main thoroughfares, the areas where they're primarily around the interstates, those kinds of things.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I believe on the ordinance, it's just naming the arterial roads that are within the city. So if a road's designated an arterial road, then that's how it got on the list. So an arterial road has a different designation if you go back through, and you can see the designations for the other ones as well through the North Florida Professional, I can't think of what's that thing called where the comprehensive plan. It's in the comprehensive plan, tells you which road's which.
Do we think that we need to be trying to get with other organizations to see whether or not we can help get those individuals some services? Maybe a workshop, seeing whether or not there's other people out there that's willing to help us to address that issue on a deeper level.
We have in the past, and it wouldn't hurt to discuss it.
Thank you.
All right. Adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2220 on final reading.
I'll make a motion for adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2220 on final reading.
Second.
Been a motion and a second, any discussion by council? Ms. Ashley, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. City Council Ordinance 2022-2221, Mr. Carolina, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City Council of City Lake City, Florida, amending the city code relating to the minimum standards code, providing for amendments to Division 1 titled In General of Article 7 of Chapter 22 of the city code, providing for compatibility with the Florida statutes, providing for the repeal of conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date, period.
Okay. Public comment. Anybody want to speak to ordinance 2022-21? If not, we'll move to adoption of city council ordinance 2022-2221.
Mr. Mayor, move for the adoption of ordinance number 2022-2221 on its final reading.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Number 8 is police officers pension board appointee, and the and number 9, fire pension board appointee. I don't have any clues. I've been trying to find somebody that is. We just kind of have to keep working on those items.
Mr. Mayor, the issue on this that I've run into is the few people I found that would probably be qualified. I'm having a hard time finding people that live in the city. So,
Or that aren't on other boards.
that's correct. That's correct.
the biggest issue. Item 10 was removed. Item 11 is discussion, possible action, removal, relocation of benches in central business district. Mr. Sampson.
Mr. Mayor, I'm down to speak on that.
You are. I'll let.
Mr. Mayor, I would hope that Mr. Sampson would take the same position he took on the rest of the items. We definitely had the item to deal with the issue of a skateboard park and update. We had the issue to deal with seniors in our community getting their houses remodeled. And I think Mr. Sampson's motion was to delete those items until we get a new interim or permanent city manager. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I would assume that he would feel the same way about this particular issue. And I would hope that you all will feel the same way. There's no need of addressing some of these issues, removing benches and things of that nature until we get our next interim city manager in place. It makes no sense, according to Mr. Sampson, to even be discussing these items and issues. That's what he said about helping the seniors. That's what he said about the skate park. Am I correct, Mr. Mayor? Was that?
You got your opinion, I haven't heard his.
No, I'm saying, is that what, I'm only saying what he said. He deleted it. Am I right about why he deleted?
I heard what he said, and I'm hearing what you said, yeah.
Right. So I'm asking Mr. Sampson, would he take the same approach about the benches as he's taken about the skate park and also the senior program to help seniors get their houses remodeled? I think that's no more than fair.
I'm waiting for you to finish is what I'm doing now. I'm gonna turn it over to him to do his presentation.
Man, we gotta get some fairness going on within this council toward all the community. And I think that's the biggest frustration that you will continue to have. I forewarned you about this, is that the population of the city is 50-50 almost. And so you have to be mindful and be diverse in the policy and decisions that this body makes. That's extremely important. And so you can't kick something out that's important to a certain section of a community and say you wait on a city manager to come in, and then there's other issues that you say, hey, we ain't gonna wait on a city manager to come in. But do you know how it would help to have air conditioners in people's home that's in the predominantly black community coming up into this hot summer that we can be one step ahead of? You don't understand it because you don't live over there, nor do you visit over there. And the fair thing to do is for you to step up as a chairman, if you're gonna step up and do anything, and say, we're gonna take all this stuff off that we don't have a city manager to work with.
We voted on the agenda and it was 3-1. Okay, Mr. Sampson.
Mr. Mayor, so since the last meeting when we had discussed this, I don't know if anyone had a chance to go and look, but the benches are not in the right locations. I know it was spoken of by quite a few citizens Saturday. I know you were at the event where it was brought up at the breakfast with the chief even, that a lot of people and a lot of citizens are really positive about moving the benches. As far as the time frame for moving them, I don't think we tell, Public Works, whoever's moving them, the time frame. That's to be determined by the employees. So what I'm asking for is that we approve the premise and go ahead and approve moving them. When they move them, that's up to their workflow, because right now they're gonna be starting, I don't know if you noticed your yard, you're probably starting to mow now. So we're getting into the point where we may not be able to move them regardless. But I would like to go ahead and have it approved so people know that we're doing what the citizens have asked for. I don't want to see the benches destroyed. I'd like to see them repurposed and used in some of the parks. I think the parks is a good place for a bench. A bench, you can watch your children play. Young's Park, I would say Annie Maddox Park, Sally Mae Jerry Park, there could be, because the benches are nice, they've got some life left in them. It's just where they're located is not the best use. This would not touch the benches in a Lusty Park, they'll still be there. So it's just on that business corridor. I counted 19. I think from the historical documentation, there should be 20, so one of them is kind of missing. And also it wasn't including the 3 over here by Mr. Kirkendall's golf building there. They have 3 separate that's off the street.
Okay. Was that a motion?
I would make a motion that we would say that we're on the record for moving the benches at the pleasure of the Public Works Department when they have the time to do it.
Yes.
Shamar Valley, 1156 Northeast Baston North Drive. Mr. Mayor, I am possibly concerned about the removal and the relocation. Well, 2 reasons. One, I feel like there's no compassion when it comes to these benches. I think it's more of a, I want to move these benches because I don't want to see the homeless people sitting on them or sleeping on them or crowding them. I think that leaving the benches in Old Leicester Park sends that clear message. These benches, I don't want you homeless because you're homeless. And I think that I think it's becoming kind of an attack on homeless individuals through the business community and using that as cover. I think that you should have some compassion. Sometimes people are in situations that they just can't help. It's through no fault of their own that they become homeless or that they have a mental health issue. Some of those benches, I agree, the ones that face backwards, that's just, I don't know who idea what that was, but that's just crazy. The one by the railroad track that's in the sand, I agree with that bench, might be needed to remove. But to remove all of them is like saying, okay, no, you homeless, you can't sleep here. What happens then when you move all those benches and then the homeless sleep in Old Leicester Park? Then there's gonna be some kind of way to remove those benches or enforce some kind of ordinance. And I just really think that it's an attack on people that are less fortunate. And I think that is less fortunate for this board or for the council to do that. I don't have any research. I hadn't seen any research that says this is such a problem that these benches need to be removed, that they're causing some sort of harm to the business corridor. And if it is a study out there or something, then I would like for somebody on the council to produce it, so that we can have some sort of data behind the reasoning of removing the benches. Me personally, I don't know about all the other citizens in the community saying that they want the benches removed. And I do agree that a bench is a good place for you to watch your kids on at the park. But if you ride by Annie Maddox Park, there's places that parents can sit and watch kids. Young's Park may not have a whole bunch of benches, but they have places where you can sit and watch kids. I think that it's just really a focus now that the business community is better than anybody else in the community. And I just think that that's very wrong. I don't feel like that's a good use of resources. And also, I really don't feel like if you're not gonna make any decision about the item 14 on the agenda, then why are we making any decisions at all? It almost is like, okay, city manager's not here, we're not gonna make a decision about the stuff I don't wanna talk about. But the other stuff we can decide on.
Thanks. Okay, there's been a motion, is there a second? Got a motion on the benches, is there a second?
I second
Okay, we got a second, is there any discussion?
Second.
it.
Jefferson,
I did.
I have, I'm gonna, talk about this. Again, it's coming down to a certain group of people wanting to get these benches moved. But when these people that want these benches moved in the same sentence, they don't want nothing done on the other side of the track. So with this certain group of people, whatever they want, that's what they get, pretty much. I'm gonna speak on something else about the same certain group of people. But again, I support the benches being moved. But again, it's just like a certain amount of people want these benches moved. That's all I have.
Okay, you bet. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I support moving the benches with the caveat. I would not like to see all of the benches moved from downtown. I feel that there are too many down there. I counted them more than one time. And I counted 21 benches, including the two over by Mr. Kuykendall. I didn't know whether they were ours or his, but anyway. They're in close proximity, and I think that they could be utilized someplace else. I agree with Mr. Sampson. I would not like to see them destroyed. If we have other areas that those benches could be used, I think that we need to perhaps use them there. But I feel that there are too many downtown, because in some places there, almost on every corner, there's a bench. And I haven't spoken with all the business community downtown, but I know some are not happy with the benches being there or in close proximity to the door of their business. But I feel that there are too many, and perhaps maybe we can remove some of them, but to take all of them away from downtown, I think that, you know, they can be utilized by some people downtown, but it is too many, and it's convenient. And then I too have noticed the homeless people sharing those benches, sleeping on them, resting on them, what have you. And it don't look good, but I do think that if we remove some of them, well, then it will at least neutralize it downtown somewhere.
Let's actually call the roll, please.
Mayor, may I ask a clarifying question? Are any of the benches tied to that bench program? Did we redo that bench program?
No, none of these are the blue benches.
None of the blue ones, okay. All right, that was one question, and then I'm gonna read back the motion and make sure that I have it down clearly. Motion approving the moving of benches from Central Business Corridor at the pleasure of the Public Works Department. The motion provides for benches to remain under Lusty Park and in front of John Kirkendall's building. The motion also provides for the benches to be relocated to other city parks within the city limits. Is that your motion?
Now, I know one thing that Mr. Jefferson mentioned was limiting the number. If we wanted to do, say, 10 first and then see how it affects the flow, I'd be for that too. Would you like to, I'll alter the motion to say at least 10 benches initially.
10 benches?
Yeah, up to 10.
Okay.
And definitely, I mean, just as a side note of that, I would say start with the ones backwards and the ones that's definitely in the sand. I think that's probably, definitely need to go.
Well, that'd be Mr.
I'll second that
Dahl.
one.
Mr. Dahl can, communicate that to Public Works. And you second that, Mr. Jefferson?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes,
Mayor
yes.
Quinn.
Yes. Okay, next item is discussion, possible action, city manager position. Mr. Bowden wants to speak on this.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm, as probably all the citizens in the community, really concerned about the process. I know you've been quoted in the paper saying that Ms. Norlock is doing a good job, and you got an opinion, you got a vote. Unfortunately, all I have is an opinion. And my opinion is that she's not doing that good of a job, and I'm not confident that she's advertising as thoroughly as she need to be advertising and attracting enough people. But that's my personal view. And you know, I know we're gonna keep going with her, but at some point in time, if she's not able to bring in some quality people that you are satisfied with, then we might need to change that process. So I didn't want to go on record saying that I'm not satisfied or pleased with her performance as a headhunter. The other thing, Mayor, at that last meeting when you all interviewed those city council candidates, it was my observation that the guy from Pasco County was at least acceptable to everybody to a certain degree, more some than the other. And so as you move forward, I would suggest that person stay in the mix. You know, that if you're going to not interview him and bring him in to be interviewed, or because it's only one, then if you find 2 more or 3 more, that he be a part of that next in-person interview process, because I think he did bring something to the table. I think he brought as much to the table as the guy from Waco, Texas did in the first round. You know, I think he would have been as competitive. Had he been in the first group, he'd have been in that top 3, I think. Now, how it played out, I'm not sure. But I do think that, I don't know if we can wait forever, you know, and I think at some point we got to decide on someone. If the position of this council is the guy from Pasco County does not even don't even worthy of an interview, then we just start the process over. But if he's worthy of an interview, then it should be communicated that he's going to be considered, but we need to find another candidate to consider with him rather than consider just one candidate, if that's the thinking. But I do think that he, his resume was such, and I think he interviewed well, to my opinion, and I think he deserved an opportunity. Certainly, I think we certainly shouldn't be talking about hiring a local manager that hadn't even applied for the job. You know, it's almost like the legislature put recruiting people or advertising for the city, you know. And I really took some strong exception to that editorial, and I'm not trying to sell the paper, but you know, just to suggest that we hire somebody locally, and then he wants to say, and then that person can hire up and come an assistant city manager. But it's a real possibility that the assistant city manager that the person hired could have more experience than the one that's doing the job. And so that don't make sense to me. And I would encourage you to look for a person in the public sector that with city manager experience or county manager experience.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
Mr. Mayor, Council, my position stay the same. I think that this council body has done it to themselves. I just don't see, it's a prime example today as to how the council treats certain people in the community, how they treat certain communities. I don't think you're gonna get a first-string quarterback. You're not gonna get Tom Brady. I think that time has came and went. I think that it's your fault, Mr. Mayor, along with other council members, that you didn't move quick enough, you didn't swoop in and get good candidates. You drug your foot about a whole lot of things, the pay and all type of other things. And saying that, at some point, Mayor, you being one of the main people for the last, I don't know how many months, 6, 7, 8 months, you want this process quickly and done. Never forget when Ms. Amy Fields was here. Oh, how you and quite a few other council members was just after her. And we want a quick replacement. Since the time that she's been gone, nothing significant has happened in fulfilling that ideal or that concept of yours. You pushed for the headhunter. You said this was gonna seal the deal. This was gonna speed the process up. This is who you wanted. This is what you pushed, Mayor. And no results. And now you're bringing a guy back that left, that didn't want to be here. Now you're bringing them back in some private conversation you all had. You keep getting us back to square one. You say you want to move it back. This board, this council lacks all type of leadership, Mayor. All type of leadership. This should have been plugged. This should have been done. We had plenty of opportunity. We even had opportunity last week to bring somebody in the interview. You could have at least brought the candidates in and interviewed them if you didn't like them. And I've seen you waste a whole lot of money on things way less important than trying to bring people in here to get us a city manager. Every time the community which I live in wants something, you, Mr. Sampson, whoever it may be, oh, we can't do it because we got a city manager. So you holding the black community in hostage because you all can't make a decision on getting a city manager. Because it seems like anything that I say or anything that a particular community wants that's of value and importance, oh, we ain't got a city manager. Just like the senior program, 65 years and older. You all agreed to give the money up. You all agreed to use the county cut and paste and to use the application process. Mr. Sampson said out of his own mouth, that's what we'll do, and we had a deal. And now we can't move the ball forward because we don't have a city manager. But that was not a part of the original deal. We were gonna do it come hell or high water is what we talked about, Mayor. And this is just, I mean, leadership is disgusting, Mayor, starting with you.
Okay, council, what's y'all's recommendation?
Again, I'm going back to the interviewing process on Wednesday. Everybody up on this dais pretty much agreed that Mr. Don Rosendorf was the better of the three. Now, y'all agreed to bring Mr. Williams back. The only thing Mr. Williams done was brought an individual back that was under investigation for stealing from the city. That was wrong. That guy should have never, but anyway, the two candidates that was up for the city manager job looked like me. Now, again, certain individuals don't want this dice to look a certain way. But I could be wrong, but change is coming. Whether you like it or not, change is coming. And Mr. Rosendorf was the better candidate for the city manager job. But again, he looked like me. So he looked like me, we don't want that. Or they don't want that. Again, it's wrong. So as long as those individuals is controlling certain people on this dais, we're gonna continue to be in this problem. This seat right next to me. The right thing to do was put Mr. Jernigan here, but that again would have changed the look of this dice. They didn't want that. Same way when Ms. Field was over there. That changed the look of this dice, they didn't want that. So until we get somebody to look like Mr. Paul or Fred, somebody to look like them, we're gonna continue to be in this situation. So I had, all right.
Mr. Mayor, so to me, I think you hire the best candidate. You might not get Tom Brady, but maybe there's a Peyton Manning that'll come out of retirement. So I think you look at what's available now. Don was the strongest of the three, but you know, Larry's the strongest of the three stooges too. That don't mean I'm gonna hire him. So, and what someone looks like has no bearing on my perspective. As a matter of fact, I believe we offered this job to Thomas, and he got a job making over 100,000 more than what we offered. So, and last I looked, he looked not like me. So I think that's incorrect to state that. I think we need the best person available. Now, I'm not saying I would rule Don out. Don might be a finalist, but I'm not going to vote for bringing in just Don, because then you're setting him up to fail. You're setting him up to be, oh, he's the only candidate. Y'all went with the only candidate. That doesn't make sense, because then you want to stir up people that do think the way you're talking. That's how you do it. You say, oh, we only had one candidate, we didn't have two. I would have loved for one of those other two guys to be a qualified candidate, but I mean, you heard me.
But where are we gonna start it?
I think what we got to start with is, one, where is Ms. Narlock with more candidates? Does she have more candidates? And two, I think it's time we reach out to the senior advisors at the ICMA and get their assistance. And how they can help us in the interim is, I mean, we don't have, I mean, I know it's on item 16, but we don't have an interim city manager.
Well, let's go ahead and bring item 16, for this discussion because.
So because of Mr. Williams being called racist from, the podium and different things, he backed out. And I don't blame him. He's retired. He's just helping us out. I don't blame him for backing out at all. From him being called racist in his perspective from this podium here, this dais, I don't blame him. I'd back out too. What does he mean? He's just helping us out.
But who called him racist from up here? I know I did.
Well, there was some talk, we'll have to revisit and re-listen to, but there was some talk about what he accomplished, what he did, which I thought he accomplished quite a bit considering the circumstances he was in. So we lost that ability, so we don't have him. So now we're down to no string. So I think ICMA's the answer because they can bring in someone that's retired or available and they can at least help us out in the process until we get somebody. And going back to the beginning, now, this is something we had talked about and they didn't decide to do. They could have also helped us find somebody.
Right.
They could have helped us look for candidates that fit all of our qualifications. And you know what the charge for them to do it is? It looks here like it doesn't charge us no cost.
Right.
So that would have saved us $15,000 and we may have got a candidate. So one thing I would say is if there's any way we could reach out, and I know I had requested Audrey to get the information today from them, and I think she forwarded everybody's email. But there's the local guy is out of Jacksonville and he's retired. His name's Hanson, but he could do a presentation and tell us what they could do. Now he wouldn't come in he wouldn't even be a candidate, but we could tell them several different things. So the options would be if you look at their documentation. Did you make copies?
Yeah. I mean, there's extra back.
So they could help us anywhere from an interim person all the way up to, do we want to look at an interim that's just a placeholder, or do we want to look at an interim that could possibly be permanent? Going back to Don, if we had a second candidate, I think he would be one of the two I'd want to interview in person. And I'm not sure that we shouldn't interview him. I don't think he should be the only interview though. I think there should be a second one. And I don't see making a second person come and interview when you know that person's not qualified. We mentioned the guy from Texas. I mean, did he get that job in Texas? Maybe he can come back and we have two people. Maybe Narlock can come up with somebody else. I don't know.
But
he wasn't our top choice then for a reason.
But speaking with Ms. Norlock, he lost interest after he didn't make it.
And I don't know where she is. Is she on the call to update us?
No, I spoke to her today and I told her that I would update her on where we were at, and she did tell me she is still out there looking for candidates and pushing. But she knew last time we hesitated at Wednesday to come back today, so I think she's looking for guidance from us to what we want her to do.
I think we need more candidates.
My recommendation is to get let her keep working at it. She's on contract, it's not gonna cost us anymore, but also ask for the assistance of the ICMA and for an interim manager and a permanent manager.
I think the more opportunity we have to talk to people, maybe they can provide someone, then we can have two people. We can have Don and someone else to talk to. I mean, I think that would make sense. I know Don has a lot of documentation. He's done a lot of things. He might be the best candidate. I can't tell you. We need someone to compare him to.
Mr. Mayor, I know my order, but y'all talking about two tracks, and I apologize, and I appreciate you allowing me to say that my order. But we're talking about using this no law and considering the ICA at the same time?
Right. Whoever can get us candidates.
Sir?
I said anybody that can get us candidates.
Well, I think the ICMA, I've been involved with them when I was on the city council, and the application actually came into HR. Then the people at ICMA said, we're gonna give us the top 10. The city council had access to all 6 to 7 of them. But those professionals, headhunters, they called themselves back then, they said, well, we think this fits your match. It seemed redundant to utilize their volunteer service and have Ms. Nolak out there still searching. I say drop Ms. Nolak and go to ICA and move on.
I say we just use everything we can use.
Well, one thing about ICMA is that they can help us with our impending issue of a interim. Because even if we said Don's great, we want to interview him next Friday, that, he's not moving here in 2 weeks. I mean, we need an interim.
Right.
Because Mr. Dial's given us a time frame, and, you know, now that Mike's not coming, where we left, I think this council's gonna need to meet more often. I think we're gonna need to meet bi-weekly, twice a week. I think we're gonna need to, because we're gonna have to help give direction, because we're not gonna have someone in that seat. So, it just, this would give us a better opportunity to get more candidates, I think. I mean, you roll back to the beginning, I did not think this was the direction to go. I kind of recommended ICMA, and we just decided a different direction.
Right.
But, I mean, at this point, what would it hurt to bring them in to see, hey, you know, what's possible?
Right. All right, let's bring them in, see when they can come meet with us, and then we'll either bring them in at the next meeting or before if we can.
Mr. Mayor, I think you changed the conversation up a few times, so we don't went to several different items on the agenda, and I'm down to speak to those different items on the agenda. You brought 16 into play.
I will. I'll bring it up in just a minute.
Okay.
But that's my recommendation is we use every resource. If somebody just wants to plow off the street, just hears about it.
Well,
Our crazy meetings.
from talking to Lynn at the ICMA, Lynn Tipton, what they look for before they'll help us is board consensus that we want them to help us.
Right.
And then there would come, the reason she sent the information on that guy Hanson is because he's the closest one to us, and he would come and do a presentation for what services they provide. But my idea on that would be direct Audrey or someone to reach out to him and say, hey, when can you do that? And then
Right.
set our meeting for that date.
I agree.
Let's not wait till next
Right.
meeting. If he can say, I can be here Wednesday or whatever time frame for allow for notice, let's do it. Let's meet with them and just see, because in the interim, you know, we need some leadership here, because you gotta have someone at the core that's in charge at that minute.
Okay.
I don't know if that'd be a motion or just a recommendation.
Well, I'm gonna let Mr. Warren speak, and then we'll go to the motions. And Mr. Loca wants to speak.
Which item are we on, Mayor? Because I know we were dealing with,
We're dealing with the city manager issue.
so we're still on 12, or we in between 12 and 16?
Both.
Okay, so as it relates to, I think I spoke to 12 already, so I think we volleying between 12 and 16. So let me just start here, Mayor, is that what's been our traditional practice way before we brought this headhunter business into play?
I think we've done it different ways. We brought them right up. At one time, they just promoted somebody from within. We've done interviews several times when we hired Mr. Kraus.
Have we not, I guess, have we used ICMA before?
Yes.
Right, and I think that's the most current practice that we've used. It's the most current practice that we've used.
I think we did with Joe.
Yes, we did. We used it with, who did we use for Joe?
I think I see.
Right, that's the most current practice that we've used. Is it not?
I think the city HR hired
I
Joe.
thought city HR might have handled that.
I thought they brought a pool of people to us, and then they had a pool, and then we took from that pool. That's the traditional way that we've done it.
Yeah.
The most current traditional way that we've done it is through ICMA. They don't get involved in the HR part. They give you the candidates, and then the city handle it from that point on.
They did that with Joe and, Wendell, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most traditional way we've done it, and I'm a firm believer is why did we break tradition? This is if we would have done the ICMA from the beginning, instead of brushing with Chris Green and you, Mr. Mill, and wanting to get rid of certain people and rush it up, we would have never been in this predicament. That's why I keep talking and directing this to you. This is your fault, Mr. Mill.
No.
Mr. Mill, we actually used, I was here. Todd actually used ICMA. We tried several traditional ways to put us in with a city manager, Mr. Mayor, and it was opposed. And we've wasted $20,000+, and still 8 months later, we have nobody. And when we had a $0 service to the taxpayer, how do you explain to people like me and everybody in this room that pay taxes that you could have got this process done for free and had a just as decent city manager as any headhunter that costs $20,000 to $25,000? How can you stomach that and pass that burden on to the taxpayers?
As I recall, I think 3 people on the council voted to do that, or 4.
Mayor, okay. ICMA is the route that we should have went, Mr. Mayor. ICMA is the route that we've been going. It's the route that we should have gone. It's the only route to this whole city council establishment of getting city manager that has ever made sense. If it's not broke, why are you trying to fix it? And I don't understand why that happened. And people had issue when it happened, Mr. Mayor. People stood up at this podium and did not want the headhunter approach to happen. But you never take input from the citizens, seriously. But now it's backfiring on you, it's not working. Now we're back to the original concept. And why are we still paying this lady? Like, we need to scratch her. She ain't producing, man. Do y'all have is there something going on with her that we don't know about? Like, why we gotta keep her? I mean, she done had how many strikes at the ball? We need a city manager. I mean, it's desperate. Like, we are the laughing stock of every city in Florida.
Absolutely. And that's why people don't apply.
Mr. Mayor, I would say if we could get consensus to reach out to ICMA for the, oh, wait a minute.
Mr. Lelker.
Go ahead, sorry about that.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Stu Local, Columbia County Observer. I would request that you would look at Ms. Norlock's executed contract. Now, you may all recall that only the mayor endorsed the contract because Ms. Sykes decided that it was the procurement or the attorney or somebody. I'm not exactly sure who. I see she's smiling. But it would be nice if we had an explanation. But I'm looking at the contract right now, the one that the mayor signed and the one that Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Sampson, and Mr. Homey and I have looked at. Paragraph 4 says the contractor shall fully complete all work required under this contract within 90 days immediately following the notice to proceed issued by the procurement project department. That's what it says in black and white. I believe the last page has Mr. Coberline's endorsement somewhere that he went over the contract. There's another part of the contract that never got signed, but it is part of this contract. And of course, you have the booklet that she sent in the beginning. That's also part of this contract. But I respectfully ask you to consider this, Your Honor. It says within 90 days immediately following the notice to proceed issued by the procurement department. You will recall that at one meeting, Mr. Coberline brought up that the purchasing or that a notice to proceed was not sent out. That was in something else that's part of all this mess that you have here. But 90 days, Mr. Jefferson, has clearly passed. And she has not provided a city manager, unless there's one here that's invisible. So if I was Ms. Norlock, and I'm not, and I would ask you to consider this, I would not be real happy right now that you got her and now she's going to be in dueling with the ICMA or the Florida Association of Counties or somebody else. She didn't perform. So it would seem to me, just because I learned how to read English, my father used to beat me up, made me learn how to read English, is that 90 days is 90 days. That's what it says in black and white. 90 days has come and gone. You guys are up here debating this, and Mr. Dial's on the spot, and everybody's on the spot now, and you don't have a city manager. I feel it would be prudent, and this is just my personal opinion, I've been doing this for a long time, is you talk to Mr. Coberline or let him come up with something tonight. You never ask him anything, so he just sits there silent. And if 90 days is 90 days, then go out and get Basinger. The only way you're gonna get a city manager now is to start fresh. You need to get a new team, because people apparently have lost confidence in the city, they've lost confidence in the city council, they've lost confidence in other people, and they've lost confidence in the headhunter. It's not a very enticing program for somebody to send in an application to the city. So once again, I respectfully ask that you look at the contract and get your money back, because you didn't perform. Earlier, you said, if you just bear with me, you said that at the meeting before last, I believe, I asked you if you looked at the contract, and you said, Mr. Norlock, and I'm speaking to the manager, she said that she performed. Well, she didn't perform. There's no city manager. So I suggest you get your money back, get Basing or somebody else and start all over again, or at least talk about it and consider it. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, counsel.
So I'd recommend that we authorize Audrey to reach out to, Mr. Hanson of the ICMA Senior Advisor Program to see when the soonest is he could have a presentation.
Okay.
And then I would recommend whatever that time is, let's just call a meeting.
Right.
And, a special meeting, give it time for notice. I would like to have, I think they require us to have some consensus, so I don't know what, if we just need a consensus or
A motion.
do we need a motion to do that?
She did say they had to be invited.
Yeah.
Or they would not.
By the council.
I would make a motion that we invite ICMA and their Senior Advisor Program to make a presentation to the council as soon as possible.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion by council? Ms. Sykes, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Okay. Let's move on to resolutions. We have City Council Resolution 2022-034. Mr. Carolina, would you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, awarding a project to Graham and Sons Electric Incorporated related to the installation of safety disconnects on field pumps located at the city spray field, providing for the execution of a contract, providing for a contract price not to exceed $36,750.00, and providing an effective date, period.
Is there a motion of the City Council Resolution 2022-034?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-034.
A second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Ms. Sykes, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Okay, item 17, is discussion possible action advisory utility committee, letter, and that was a letter or an email from, Mr. Kraus saying that he did not want, or that he was on withdrawal from the utility board, thinking he had a conflict because he works with people on the board, and so that's where we're at. Mr. Warren wanted to speak and Mr. Bowden wanted to speak.
I was in the middle of the conversation, I apologize, man. What did you say about somebody wanting to do what?
I'm talking about item 17, Mr. Kraus on the utility board.
He's what? What did he say?
He's not wanting to serve on he wants to be on it as an advisor, but not as a voting member.
Due to sunshine violations?
Right.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Right, do we know whether or not the county's even gonna move? Is this the joint board where we meet or whatnot? Is the county gonna move forward? Cause I'm understanding that they're not gonna meet with us again as a city.
No, they are still on our utility committee.
I think you're gonna be disappointed, man. I don't think that that county committee's gonna meet with you all again. But I could be wrong.
I could be too.
All right.
I have not heard from them officially.
Mayor, if I could,
Yes,
yes, I did receive an email from Mr. Kraus stating that there would be no county personnel on the utility advisory.
okay.
You know what?
So am I correct? If I understand you, if you may, Mr. Mayor, may I ask Mr. Dow something, if you don't mind, Mr. Dow? Am I correct in what I'm saying about the county don't wanna have any more future meetings? Is that in line with what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
What did you say?
Okay, the county's not gonna be on our utility committee
I don't want anybody.
at all.
That's not the way I understood it. From talking to Mr. Kraus. Yeah, so their staff cannot be on there because their attorney has told them that the economic development person and the county manager cannot discuss the items with the commissioners while they're on that committee.
Again, I could be wrong. I think I'm not, but I could be wrong. I don't think that.
Well, we'll reach out
commissioners
and
are
find
gonna show up
out.
to the
That's all
meetings.
we can do.
Thank you.
Well, I do think if there's a violation of sunshine laws, we probably should look at all of our committees
I agree.
because I'm not sure that they're not correct, that there might be violations. Because what David, when I talked to him after this email came out, he said what the concern was is that he would have a meeting, say, with Glenn Hunter about utilities, and then that could be a violation of sunshine laws. Whether they want to continue or not, I have no idea. I haven't
I
heard
don't
that.
either, and if he told Mr. Dial that, I expect that's probably true, but we'll verify it and then we'll regroup on it. We need to bring that up at the next meeting and find out what their position is, look at all our committees, see what we need to do and address it. And I think that's all we can do tonight.
Mr. Mayor, back to item 16 that we skipped, we did it with 12. So the one thing is, I know Mr. Dial, it had agreed to stay through Thursday of this week. So
Mr. Dial told me today, you could stay on a couple of weeks longer if we can get something moving along.
In light of, Mr. Williams withdrawing on the conversation we had, if you need me to stay on a little bit longer until y'all can bring somebody else in, I was willing to do that.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll work diligently, as he said, as soon as they can get over here, we will, and we appreciate it. Mr. Lelker.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. The local Columbia County Observer, once again, I don't know who's telling what, I haven't seen the email, whatever it is that you're handing around up there. But you have a city attorney here who's an expert in municipal law and sunshine law, I guess, and all that stuff. The City Utility Advisory Committee is an advisory committee. Does fact-finding. It makes no final decisions that I know of. It can't do anything. I see, people talk to each other and come up with opinions. And everything that the City Utility Advisory that I've seen has to be approved either by the City Council, that's you four guys right now, or the County 5 across the street. You do nothing on its own. Generally, what I've seen is you find facts. You sit and you decide whether somebody like Jamie Bell or another engineer would go out and get a study done, and then both governing bodies have to approve those studies and the financing, and you guys, the City Council and the County Commission, works out the financing, and then it's finally approved by the City Council. I mean, that's why I've seen it. I've seen Mr. Cobaline make recommendations about contracts and stuff that have to be approved by the City Council. So if indeed the City Utility Advisory Committee, which is only an advisory committee, can't make any final decisions, I do understand this is kind of an interesting issue, that there are 2 City Council members and 2 county commissioners on that committee. And that was originally Mr. Sampson's idea, to have the top level people discuss what they would bring back to their separate governing bodies so that they could decide and the city and the county could work forward together for the utilities that benefits everybody in Columbia County. So I think you need an opinion from Mr. Cobaline. I keep hearing this stuff thrown around, that Mr. Joel Foreman said one thing, and I spoke to Mr. Krause, and I think he got an opinion, or there was some sort of opinion from Mr. Cobaline at a Fort White County meeting, but yet he represents the city on whether or not there was a sunshine law violation with that utility advisory committee. So now both governing bodies are having a problem deciding whether these advisory boards are breaking the sunshine law. Well, that's what you get. That's what the city attorney gets paid for. There's a bazillion opinions on sunshine law. I think you need to ask, he's right there. Don't ask him anything else. Ask him for an opinion. If you guys let Mr. Sampson's original idea go down the toilet, the city and the county, you heard Mr. Warren, if he's right, this is a very big tragic event. If the city and the county are not gonna sit down and start talking about utilities again. This is a big deal. This is, I'm sorry?
I say that's done.
This is a real problem. And if people are looking for cover under the sunshine law and having the attorneys not buck up against that, if that's not the case, then you have the attorneys getting involved in the political business of the public bodies, and that I don't believe is their job. So I'm asking you, as I did previously, because I don't really believe this is a violation of sunshine law on these advisory committees, to get an opinion in writing, if it does, from Mr. Cobaline And I'll ask the same thing from the county, which I believe that they're gonna do. I think that's on their agenda for the next meeting. Thank you, Ron.
All right, no Department of Administration comments or council, Mr. Hill?
Yes, I have, this is, addressed to Chief Butler. Chief, when is the police department, if you would, could you come up to the podium, please? When is the police department gonna do something about these guys speeding through the neighborhood? I was out yesterday, a little child was out riding a little four-wheeler in his yard and just shot out in the street. Now, if one of those guys that speed through the neighborhood just happened to come along, innocent child got run over. I ain't gonna say lost his life, but got run over. That's one issue I have. The second issue is the noise. There is a noise ordinance. The police department need to do something about it.
As far as the speeding, we've received complaints. We've just posted overtime out of the DOT grant, Speed and Aggressive. We've been up in all quadrants of the city, but we've received complaints, I know, on Washington and MLK. And we've had units up there running radar, and we're actually putting unmarked units up there also to try and catch. I know we've got identification of some of the vehicles. We just don't have the plates, but we are actively up there working on that.
Well, if you would add Wilson and Long Street.
And if you could give me any times or even the street, what we'll do is we'll throw what we've been throwing our speed boxes out there, the traffic counts, to try and get a better idea of when the speeding has happened, so we can put the units up there during the most aggressive times.
I know each of those streets, Long Street and Wilson Street have four-way stop.
Mm-hmm.
They're not stopping.
We'll get units up there.
They're using those streets pretty much to drag or whatever. I got a complaint from a citizen Friday evening, went by and talked with them, and saying the same thing. They was wanting to put speed humps on Wilson and Long Street to try to slow them down. I don't know if that's possible or not, but something needs to be done about it.
Yes, sir. I'll have more units up there. We'll concentrate. We'll get it posted and get them up there. As far as the noise, the way the ordinance is right now, if we get a complaint and they request the arrest, we can take enforcement action. Other than, at night we'll tell them to turn it down, but unless we have an actual complaint, you can't breach an officer's peace.
Well, again, the other night, I started to do the unthinkable. It's call you in the middle of the night. But again, I didn't, but something, again, needs to be done about it. And I hate somebody's child to get run over.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, we are setting more units up there, and we're concentrating on the areas where we've been seeing a lot of complaints.
All right, I appreciate it.
And again, if anybody has anything, you contact either one of the lieutenants, contact Sue in my office or whatever, and give us that street, and I'll make sure the lieutenant adds it to our selective enforcement to get units up there.
Thank you. I got one more thing.
Okay.
I received this in the mail on Monday. Today was a week ago. This is from the Board of Ethics. It was 5 people filed ethics charges against me. I had done nothing wrong, nothing was found. Those 5 people were Ron Williams Jr., Daniel Sweat, and his wife, Kim Sweat, Kimberly Earth something, or Easter something, whatever, and Be Faithful Coker. Again, nothing was found, done nothing wrong, but people like this make me continue to do what I do because I take this here job serious. So I'm not gonna do anything to jeopardize me or this position. And I thought I just needed to share that with y'all this evening, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, on talking about the dock, I know the I think we should have a workshop on that. I think the sooner the better, because I know it's time sensitive. I think FWC was kind of hoping that. I know we reached out to the county, and at the time, their commissioners didn't want to meet. I think we should invite them. I think it would make sense to do that, because before that can be agreed to, there's several things that need to happen. You know, there's got to be some addressing of the other issues there.
I talked to Tim Murphy, he didn't seem interested. I talked to Chris Wynn, and he wanted to have a few days to do that. I'll reach out to him, and we did kind of talk about a workshop, so I'll get with him on how quick he wants to do it. It is time sensitive. All right, that will be adjourned.